Welcome to Zoom on Technology. What we're talking about today sounds like something straight out of a spy movie, but I promise you, it's happening with technology you and I use every single day. We're going to dive into how AI can now literally listen to you type and steal your passwords with terrifying accuracy. So, just think about your last video call for a second. You were probably multitasking, right? Maybe replying to an email or typing a password into some website. Seems totally harmless. But what if I told you that that very call could be the security breach you never saw or, I guess, never heard coming? Okay, so here's the key idea. Every single key on your keyboard, when you press it, makes this tiny, almost imperceptible, unique sound. Now, to our ears, a T sounds pretty much like an R, but for a highly trained AI, oh, those sounds are as different as night and day. Each key has its own acoustic signature. Now, this has a pretty technical name, an acoustic side channel attack. It's really just a fancy term for a simple idea, stealing data from the sounds a device makes. And, this isn't brand new. Spies were using similar kinds of techniques way back in the day. But what is new is the incredible power of modern AI, which has turned this from a kind of theoretical risk into a very, very practical threat. And this really points to a huge blind spot in how we think about digital security. We're all so careful to hide our screens when we type in a password at a coffee shop, right? We angle our bodies, we cover the keyboard with our hand, but we totally ignore the sound our typing makes. We're basically broadcasting it to any microphone that might be nearby. So how does this actually work? Well, it's basically a four-step process. First, the attacker records the sound of your typing. Simple enough. Then, some software goes in and isolates each individual click and clack. And then comes the really cool part. Each one of those tiny sound waves gets converted into an image, like a picture of the sound. Finally, thousands of these sound pictures are fed to an AI until it learns to recognize the unique image for the A key, the B key, and so on. It literally learns to see the sound of your typing. But you might be wondering, how can the sounds really be that different? Well, according to the researchers, it probably just comes down to simple physics. A key in the middle of the keyboard is going to sound a little different than one near the edge. The AI isn't just hearing the key's mechanism, it's learning the key's physical location on the board through all these subtle acoustic details. Pretty wild. Okay, so to see just how effective this is, researchers set up an experiment. They took a very common laptop, a MacBook Pro, which is a great choice because so many of them use the exact same keyboard, and they just started recording keystrokes. They pressed each key 25 times to create a whole data set for the AI to learn from. All right, first they tested the classic scenario, a smartphone just sitting there about 17 centimeters away from the laptop, just listening in. So what kind of accuracy do you think the AI pulled off? An incredible 95%. Let that sink in. That is the highest accuracy ever recorded for this kind of attack without using a language model to guess the words. Just from the raw sound, the AI could pick the correct key 19 times out of 20. Just wow. Okay, but that means a phone has to be physically nearby. What about a more common remote scenario? What happens when the only microphone is the one on your laptop and it's broadcasting your typing over a totally standard Zoom call? Yep, 93% accuracy. Even with all the audio compression and noise filtering that Zoom does to make calls sound good, the AI was still able to identify the correct key with stunning precision. This is a new record, and it proves this attack is practical in the real world right now. All right, that was the scary part. So what on earth can we do about it? Well, the good news is there are actually some really simple and effective ways to defend yourself. You're not helpless here. First and foremost, the best defense is to not use the keyboard at all. Seriously, use biometrics like Face ID or a fingerprint sensor whenever you can. Second, always enable two-factor authentication. It adds a security layer that this kind of AI just can't hear. Interestingly, the study also found that a more chaotic or inconsistent typing style is actually harder to track than methodical touch typing. Also, make sure you use the Shift key for capital letters and symbols. The AI has a really tough time detecting when the Shift key is being held down, which makes passwords much, much harder to crack. And of course, the simplest advice of all, just maybe don't type sensitive stuff while you're on a call. So let's just put this into perspective. Our old habits, like hiding your screen or trying to type quietly, those are pretty weak defenses against this kind of attack. They do almost nothing. The strong defenses are the modern ones, using things like biometrics and two-factor authentication. It really is a fundamental shift in how we need to think about our own security. And here's the thing that's really crucial to remember.
this goes way beyond just your laptop. I mean, think about it. There are microphones in your phone, your smartwatch, your smart speakers, your webcam. The vulnerability isn't just the keyboard. It's the fact that our world is now filled with millions and millions of tiny, always-on ears.
Which really leaves us with this final lingering question. For decades, privacy was something you could see, a closed door, a hidden screen. But as technology evolves, maybe we need a whole new definition. In a world that is always listening, what does privacy truly sound like anymore? And that's our look at this wild new threat. Thanks for joining us on Zoom on Technology, and we'll see you next time.